412. We are part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I am Tyler, and with me as always is Daniel Vogelbach. Just kidding. That's Zach. That's Smitty. I had to bring the meme into here. But yeah, so we're around the 412. Just a friendly reminder to those of you, we have our own channel on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you're listening to this podcast or anywhere you watch it. Like if you're watching on YouTube, go give us a follow on wherever you would listen to a podcast. We have our own channel now. Just search around the 412. It should show up. Really helps us out a lot. Go follow our Twitter as well. Trying to get to 17,000 followers to give away a pair of Steelers tickets for you guys. I don't know why it's not happening sooner. It's literally free Steelers tickets. But yeah,
it
just
literally
want to throw that out there before we get into the sports.
It plateaued at we got to 15.3 so easily, and it just stopped. So
yeah,
everybody that would possibly follow us probably did. Yeah. But we got to hit 17K before we give away these Steelers tickets for Steelers Ravens specifically. So obviously that would be a great matchup. Very
it's a
historic
rivalry game. Come on, guys.
Exactly. What better game to go to than Steelers Ravens? And for full transparency, I just want to say, because we did have some people ask me why we're pushing about the separate channel. There's just so much content that comes out on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network that we're really pushing for all the shows to push their own separate channels that have been set up. That's why we all have our own link trees and stuff like that. So the Around the 412 link tree is in our bio on Twitter, which again, follow us, and it will take you to wherever you want to listen or watch the podcast at. So be sure to do so.
And I have a real life example of this. Our good friend Sarge, every week he'd ask me if our show was out because he didn't think it was, but it was. And but the problem is, and it's a good problem to have, there's just so much content coming out from DK Pittsburgh Sports on the podcast channels. So you've got the 3 DK Daily Shots, Ramon Show, plus individual podcasts. So it's hard to find it there. It kind of gets cluttered. So having our own channel helps us out and keeps it organized so you guys can just find us directly.
Right. I have a question for you as well as everybody else. This has become a topic, really just, one person kind of pushing. I'm not going to mention them on here. Are you worried at all about Oneil Cruz up at the major league level due to his low batting average, the fact that he really doesn't walk a ton? I think he only has 2 walks still. Both came in the same game, actually. Is that something that concerns you, or do you lie more where I will? And I'll give my opinion right now before you answer, where it's just an adjustment period for him. Pitchers are going to adjust to him, and then he has to adjust back. And, this Major League Baseball isn't easy. He's going to go through these types of things. Everybody's raving about Jack Suwinski. This is exactly what Jack Suwinski looked like through his first 50 or so at bats in the major leagues as well. So I just think that there's an adjustment period here for Oneil Cruz, and you just kind of got to go through it with him. It doesn't impact what he's going to be as a future player at all. I think that you're still seeing the high-end flashes of what you want to see. So I'm not discouraged at all by the fact that he's, hitting for a low batting average right now and not walking a ton.
Neither am I. I just think it's natural growing pains that you'll get from a rookie hitter. And I think that people need to not get caught up in the things that we've seen before. The first name that comes to mind is Tyler Glasnow for me. And it's a different regime, different development team and all that. And I totally get it. But Tyler Glasnow was a guy that never really succeeded that much at the major league level in Pittsburgh. And I don't want people to overreact the way they did with Glasnow. Now, like I said, Glasnow was a completely different regime. But I think either way, he's going to have to develop somewhere. And whether that's in AAA or in Pittsburgh, I think I'd rather it be in Pittsburgh because, honestly, I don't know what the development team in AAA is going to teach him that he doesn't already know. Yes. I mean, the traits are there. He just has to get used to the level of play. And I think that'll come with time and more at bats. It's just going to be a natural process. Practice makes perfect. So eventually the average will come up. The walks will go up. The strikeouts will come down. It'll turn around. But I would rather him get at the major league level than AAA, because before the season, when it came to AAA, people were saying there were things that he could work on, and it was mainly defensively. But defensively, I think he's been fine. And so I think as far as offensively goes, it doesn't really benefit him to go back down to AAA at this point. He should just stay up in Pittsburgh where he's at. Doesn't really concern me at all.
Yeah, everything that he has left to learn, he can learn at the major league level. I completely agree with you. I think that he's maxed out what's going to happen at AAA. I think it serves no purpose for him to go back there now. And then the other thing with the Pirates that I kind of would talk about, you obviously have some players returning from injury. We actually have two of them in Ben Gamel and Yoshi Tsutsugo returning from the IL today. Kevin Newman on his way back as well. You're going to have obviously some tough decisions to make here. We saw Hoy Park and Tucupita Marcano be the guys that had to go back for Gamel and Tsutsugo coming back. Now, when Newman comes back, you're going to have one more guy that has to go back. You know that's going to happen. That is what it is. The reason that I have this on here is because it came, like Ben Sherrington himself has said, that yes, Oneil Cruz is going to play the majority of the games at shortstop the rest of the way. Now, what happens then when Kevin Newman does come back? Do they actually stay true to that? Is Derek Shelton going to stay true to that? Or because Oneil Cruz was out in the outfield doing some drills, do we see that actually take place? Is Oneil Cruz going to play some in the outfield this year for the Pirates?
If you're asking me just flat out, is he going to at all this year? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen how creative they've gotten. I think so, because you had Cole Tucker playing center field last year. I think that they've really just kind of thrown everything at the wall in terms of who they play in the outfield. And I mean, getting Gamel back is a big help. First off, skipping over the Newman part real quick, in the outfield, he's been solid this year, and especially offensively, he also contributed tonight. We're recording Tuesday, fourth wall break. But yeah. I think that at some point this year, yes, we will see him at outfield, because I just don't, honestly, I don't think that Shelton can really control himself in terms of putting Newman back at shortstop at some point. I think he can't help himself. I think it's going to happen, and I think when that happens, you might see Oneil Cruz go into the outfield. Maybe he'll test out at right field or something like that. Whether I want it to happen or not, that's completely different. I think Oneil Cruz should stay at shortstop the entire time. But I just don't really trust Michael Shelton as a manager to really do what I think would be the smarter thing to do. Or Derek Shelton, sorry. What I think that would be the smarter thing to do. And keep him at shortstop. I think he'll play someone in the outfield, and I think at some point Newman will play, and maybe he doesn't become the full-time starter again, but I think he's definitely going to be playing more than we would like at shortstop again.
Yeah, I guess I'm just hoping that it's second base that we see him at, if he's going to be in the lineup, Newman that is, or like a late defensive replacement or something like that. But man, yeah, I will say, for some reason, even though he's taking drills, and it makes even less sense for him to do drills out there, but not actually play games out there. But that's kind of where I'm at with my thinking, is I think that he's going to be taking drills out there, but not actually play a game out there. Now, if you have some injuries take place, again, with some outfielders, but they have a plethora of outfielders now, especially with Gamel being back. So I think that you probably need one or two to go down again to see Oneil Cruz actually playing out there. But, maybe that's just me wishful thinking that we don't see Newman at shortstop over Oneil Cruz at any point. But yeah, I think unless you got anything else, that's about all we got for Pirates talk. I will say,
congrats to Tyler Heineman for being a dad, because apparently he's going on parental leave. So I didn't know he was going to have a kid. So there you go.
Yeah. At the time of recording this, Jason Delay is up with the team right now. But yeah, when we come back, we're gonna obviously talk about some Penn stuff. We got another extension done in Pittsburgh. It's not one of the big ones that we were hoping to be talking about at the time of recording this, but we'll talk about it when we come back. This is Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. All right, and welcome back to Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. And welcome back, Casey DeSmith, signing a 2-year extension with the Pittsburgh Penguins, carrying in an average annual value of $1.8 million. It's about a $650,000 raise there based off his last deal in Pittsburgh. Now, under $2 million for a backup goaltender, especially with the goaltending market in general, I don't necessarily have an issue with that aspect of it. And again, this is maybe a very stupid reason, and I'll be completely blunt about that. I just have a hard time accepting the fact that they're running it back again with the same goaltending duo, being that that's what's gotten them in so much trouble for different reasons in each of the last 2 years, and largely the reason that they were eliminated in each of the last two postseasons. And just not being available when they need to be available, I guess. And had if this was an outside signing, when you look at Casey DeSmith's body of work and what they got him for, I'm probably okay with it. But I have a hard time. I just think it's uninspiring. I think that's probably the best word for me to use about this. With Casey
Yeah.
DeSmith coming back to be the backup goaltender, not bad by any means. I actually think he's an average to above average backup goaltender. And in a pinch, obviously, we've seen him be able to even at times outplay Tristan Jarry and be a number one. But again, I just think when you look at the organization, what they've gotten from the goaltending the last few seasons, it's hard for me to be excited about them running it back with the same goaltending duo.
I'll be honest. Whether I don't think I was going to be excited about Casey DeSmith being back, but it is what I expected at the least. Because if it wasn't going to be Marc-Andre Fleury, I figured it was going to be Casey DeSmith. Because if you look at the goalie market, at least among free agents, unless you're trading for a goalie, the free agent market is just bare bones. And most of them, you might even pay more than what you were paying DeSmith for. And I fully understand what you're saying, and like you're not really excited about the team running it back with the same tandem. I'm not either for the same reasons you are, but at the same time, it's hard for me to imagine a scenario unless it was going to be someone like Marc-Andre Fleury where they bring in a different goalie in free agency. I think it just made too much sense for them to go back to DeSmith. Yeah. I just think it's so easy to go back to DeSmith, and like you said, he's not a bad goalie. The worst part about DeSmith is that he hasn't been healthy when we needed him to be, like you alluded to. That's the worst part. I know he had a rough start to this past season. He ended up finishing the season at a .912 save percentage in 20 games. Like for a backup goaltender, that's really solid. So I don't really know what to make of this, more so than it's just kind of more than it's more so what I expected, I guess. I don't really think that they were going to make a splash with Marc-Andre Fleury. I just didn't think that this regime really had any connection to him. I know that like the name had been linked to the team for a long time, but literally, how are you not going to link Fleury to the Penguins if you're any sort of insider? It's just, you don't even have to, you can make that up and anybody would believe you. So I think that honestly, I'm kind of grateful that that happened. Whether DeSmith turns out to be solid this season or the next 2 seasons, I guess I should say, he's got a 2-year contract or not. The fact that we don't have to deal with if Jarry has a bad period or a bad game dealing with the Fleury nonsense. Don't get me wrong. I love Marc-Andre Fleury, but that is just a lot of baggage to come with the player that I just do not want surrounding the team. And so I'm grateful that they got a deal done for that, but I fully understand what you're saying. With the goalie situation, goalies have really killed, especially the past 2 seasons in the postseason, has really killed the Penguins. And the first time it was Tristan Jarry, he turned it around, but it got hurt. And then this time, honestly, Casey DeSmith not being available is what killed the Penguins. So also, the main thing that I don't understand about this signing, though, even though I fully expected it, is how did he warrant a raise at all? Like, I understand signing him for like the same amount of money, but like, where did the raise come from? I don't know where he earned that.
Yeah, I think it was just the anticipation of the goalie market. Honestly, I think that his agent, did well to communicate. Hey, you looked at the goalie market. There's no way you're getting less than $2 million from somebody else. So I think that they did well in that aspect. And to be honest with you, it's not like 1.8 million is like ridiculous. It's just, I think the same thing as you, like a $650,000 raise. Yeah. So I don't know, but again,
I know he's a backup goalie, and 1.8 for a backup goalie is not bad, but yeah, it just seemed odd. But I think the signing honestly helps with future signings as well. They're going to have more cap than they would have if they brought in an outside goalie.
It does, yeah. And I think for me, like the thing that I look at, and when I'm having a conversation basically with myself about it, is I don't want them to make a change just for the sake of making a change. If Casey DeSmith is the best option out there to be the backup for Tristan Jarry, then so be it. And again, I don't know that there was a better option out there at that price point. I mean, you're talking to yourself into what, like an aging Braden Holtby, who probably would have gotten more than $1.8 million from the Penguins. I don't know, so I guess at the end of the day, I'm okay with this. It's just, again, uninspiring is probably the best word to use. Now, what I'm not uninspired by, this comes from somebody that I think we know kind of well. Dejan Kovacevic from Pittsburgh Sports putting out that Chris Letang and the Penguins are close on an extension. Now, what does that mean, close? He he said that's literally what he's been told. Okay, so really no further details than that, and looks like 3 years. I think Chris's camp is probably
Which is
pushing
a
for
little
that fourth year.
surprising.
Yeah,
It's a
I
little
feel like Chris's
surprising to
camp is
me if they
probably
do get.
pushing for 4.
Yeah, I think if they get the 3 years done, I feel like they would probably sacrifice some of the cap that they did, or like the salary caps that they didn't want to give up to Letang if they're
Yeah.
going to get the
Mhm.
lesser years. Like they'll probably give him an extra like $250,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
For the less years.
Now, man, if the number that had been thrown out there, not by DK, but by other people throughout this last week, comes in between 7 and 8 million, and it's for 3 years, I think the Penguins. I almost said Steelers right there for some reason. I think the Penguins got everything that they wanted right there. I mean, you're talking a guy that we thought maybe could push for 9.5. Really, when you look at the other defensemen around the league and Chris's body of work and the level that he's still playing at. Now, yeah, it would have been on a
Right.
shorter term, but he probably could have gotten 9.25 somewhere or something like that. If they get him between 7 and 8 million, I said it before. A day when it's raining, I will take a video. I will take my shirt off and do the Dougie in the rain if we get Chris Letang under $8 million.
I didn't know you said that.
I did.
Now I want that to happen. Yeah, I think that obviously with it being close and in DK's words, now we don't know what that means, but I feel I know what that means. That it's going to be the day after we record this show.
Oh yeah,
or sometime between. That's typically how it works at around the 412. So at least it looks like it's getting done, and we seemed like we were getting close with Letang like the past like couple weeks anyway. But this is just more confirmation of that.
Mhm.
Now I'm still concerned about Malkin. I don't know what it's up in the air about, but maybe with like the DeSmith signing and depending like if Letang takes. I guess a little bit less would be the between $7 and $8 million. Then maybe that can
Yeah.
help the number for Malkin go up.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take to get Malkin signed. We talked about it with Jesse a lot last week. Hope you guys checked that one out. But it just seems like that one is just so totally up in the air, and they're further apart on money than we probably seem.
Yeah, which is again like so weird. Just when you hear, what we heard from Gino himself about it, and when we know the situation, it's just hard to envision him playing in another sweater. But man, I know that at the same time, like he is a prideful guy. He doesn't want to be slapped in the face. And by all accounts, they started out with 2-year offers for Letang and Gino both. And what was the money on those? I don't know. But man, like I was really starting to believe when Jesse was throwing out the idea that maybe it was just a 1-year deal for like $4.5 million. So if it was a 2-year deal, 2 years, $9 million for Gino. I mean, yeah, regardless of everything else, even if he is comfortable financially and everything, there's still a point where you feel like you're getting slapped in the face.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder how much of this is like Gino's agent versus Gino. And obviously they communicate, and Gino's like, I want
That's
somewhere
fair too.
around this, but obviously the agent is the one that's doing the bidding for Gino, not himself. So I don't know how much that plays into it, but at least we got the ball rolling a little bit. Like this is one of the guys that we weren't necessarily thinking will come back with DeSmith, but he did come back, and this is another free agent signing to go along with Rust. We've got multiple more to go. I mean, I know you and I would bring back several guys like Heinen, Rodriguez, Raquel, like so it's getting close to crunch time as well. July 13th is only 8 days away from when we're recording this podcast, and that's the first day of free agency. Now, whether everybody signs that day or not, they don't have to. But I mean, you're probably going to have multiple people calling on, especially guys like Raquel. I feel like you're going to have a lot of teams calling. So I feel like you kind of have to figure out Letang before July 13th and Gino especially because you want to know how much money you're going to have left over. I feel like Gino has to be
Yeah.
wrapped up before free agency day. And if not, if he's not signed by free agency, then my doubt is at an all-time high of him coming back to Pittsburgh, because I just think you have to know what you're going to have for everybody else. And that's
Mhm.
what's holding up. Like Jesse said last week, those two are holding up the rest of them. And so once you figure out those two, whether that means bringing them back or not, then you can sign the rest of them. So if Letang signs, then that's great. But you still need to figure out whether you're signing Gino or not by the 13th, which is literally like a week away. So it's
Yep.
crunch time, Penguins. Like, figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because especially, if Gino's not going to be back, you're going to see them probably target, a Vincent Trocheck or a Ryan Strome. I can't
Claude
see them getting
Giroux.
into. I'm not opposed, to be honest with you. I don't think that they can get
probably
into
would
the.
be.
Yeah, he might be. I don't think that they can get into the bidding war for like a Nazem Kadri. I just don't see that happening. But I
Nazem
think the other
Kadri is going
guys
to be
mentioned
very
there.
overpaid. I mean, good for him. He
Yeah.
deserves to get paid, but like he's going to be very overpaid. Like him and Klingberg are going to be the two like highest overpaid players this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, again, good for Nazem Kadri at 87 points this year. First time that he's broken 60, though. So, yeah, some team's going to throw money at him for his season that he had with Colorado, playing with incredible line mates. He's a good player, but he's
It
not
kind
going
of
to.
reminds
Yeah,
me of the year in Buffalo that Jeff Skinner had whenever he scored over 40 goals. They
look at
overpaid
what
for him,
he
and now the contract looks bad.
parlayed that into. Yeah. But yeah, before free agency, we got the draft coming up. Obviously, last week with Jesse, we talked all about that. Don't know that we have a whole bunch more to add. I just wanted to say that oddly enough, and this person is not somebody that listened to last week's episode with Jesse, but somebody else threw an exact name that Jesse did at us, or at me, I should say. What player do you think that got out of the ones that Jesse mentioned got double dipped?
Brad Lambert.
Correct. Yes, I've been hearing this guy's name so much recently. And I know
Yeah.
that Jesse mentioned like he was getting some top 10 smoke. It's kind of cooled off and he might actually get to, in the Penguins range now.
Yeah.
But man, the more and more that I hear about this kid, watched a little bit of him, not a lot, not enough to, do anything of Jesse Marshall's status on
Believe me,
Twitter or
we
write
don't
an article
research
about
the
it.
draft enough to be able to
But
give justified
no,
like
absolutely
judgments
not.
on any of these players.
But man, I think that's like the perfect situation. Is a guy that was probably like a top 10 talent. The smoke has kind of started to settle, and he's kind of cooled off his status. Ends up falling to 21, and there he is.
Yeah. Honestly, if that's the player, then that's great. I don't really care who it is, just because I don't, like I said,
Not a
like
goal.
outside, yeah, not a goalie, obviously, but outside of the top like 2 to 3 players of any given draft. Now, obviously, there's a couple drafts here and there that are deeper than that you have got NHL talent right away, get like 4, 5,
Right.
6. But like outside of the top 2 to 3 players, like you have no idea what you're getting with these guys. And so just take the best player, guys. Like, take Jesse's advice. Take best player available. I don't care if it's defense, offense, forward. It doesn't matter, because the talent in our farm system is just so poor at this point that we thought it was getting better. Guess what? It
Mhm.
didn't. So
Yeah.
you need
Well,
anything.
we thought Poulin was going to be something. We thought Legare was going to be something. Those guys, I mean, maybe they're NHL players, but they're not going to be the impact guys that we thought, 2 years ago that they could be.
No, maybe they turn out to be like a third, like come up and be like third liners. At most, maybe second liners. They would just have to have massive improvements if they were going to be like regular top 6 guys.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Honestly, I think that does it for the big portion of the show here, at least with our sports talk, unless you got anything else.
No, I mean, there's
related.
just not a lot going on. I mean, we're going to have the draft this upcoming week, or this week. And then we've got free agency next week, which should be an exciting time. But I mean, we're getting into football season soon. Camp's going to start this month as well. We're into July.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a lot to talk about with sports really. So yeah, we can move on to our next topic to
Round
close it out.
412 is 5 years old. We just had our birthday on
We
Twitter
are 5.
recently. So
Yeah, we
yeah.
made the Twitter account July 2nd. Although on Twitter it says 1990. I guess we were one of those
that's not
kids that like,
true.
we had to lie about our age to make our account.
Exactly. Yep, that was us. We do. So I said we're done talking about sports. However, we do want to talk about one last thing that just kicked off with it being July, Christmas in July. We start this mission at this time every year, rocking around the 412 year 5. I can't believe this is officially kicked off. We actually already got 3 different donations, which is great that people are, donating so early in the cause. We've raised over $20,000 doing this thing through the past 4 years. Last year specifically, we raised about $11,000, helped 13 families. Across those 13 families, 30 kids, provided Christmas in its entirety too. Oh boy, man, I wasn't expecting to get like this on today's episode. But everybody knows how much this thing means to me. Like when we sat down and at separate times had to talk to Josh Carney about this last year, he got to see me crying through a Zoom meeting talking about this mission because like he asked me, what does it mean to like, actually see these kids opening these gifts and stuff? Because unfortunately for you not being back here, I'm the one that goes and delivers these things and watches them open the gifts and what it means to them. And in turn means to me, the way that it impacts me. We talk about it all the time, but like you and I have never had Christmases like we provide for these. We were very fortunate growing up and never had to deal with some of the circumstances that we see. Last year, the one family, the mother passed away the day before Thanksgiving that we had already planned on providing Christmas for. Like it wasn't because that she passed away. We had already decided to adopt them for Christmas and give them the Christmas, and then she passed away. There was another family where their father was just not in their lives. He left them when they were born. And these other stories that you hear, like going to some of these houses and seeing the conditions that some of them live in, man, it's really eye-opening. And, I try to get this message across to people and physically show them through pictures and some stuff. Obviously, there's some stuff I keep private because that's not my business, it's those families. Right. But in the best way possible, letting people know like, hey, this is where your money's going and it is for a really good cause. We attach our name to it, but it has very little to do with us. You guys are the reasons that these kids have a Christmas. Man, like every year it obviously gets bigger and bigger and better and better. And like I said, $20,000 has been raised by this thing over the last 4 years. Like when I say that number out loud, it's crazy. And last year was over half of that. Like last year was just ridiculous. Over $11,000. My entire basement. Like, I mean, I remember going around my basement with my camera and showing everybody.
Present, yeah.
I couldn't move down here. Like I was literally, I had my chair to do the podcast and I couldn't move. Like I couldn't turn in any direction. Everywhere. Yeah, it was boxes everywhere. And I love that. And I love that. And I hope it's the exact same way this year too. I hope it's more. I hope I have to like make an addition onto the house or something to put more boxes. But man, this thing has been great. I call it my baby. It's the most important thing that we do. I love doing the podcast. I love everything else that we do. But rocking around the 412 is definitely the biggest thing that we do and that we're a part of.
Yeah, it's definitely the best thing that's come out of this. I mean, don't get me wrong. We love sport, like talking sports. We love having some of the experiences we've had, but the best experiences that we had, I feel like, have always come from this. And it's crazy to see how much it's grown. And like you said, and it really doesn't really have much to do with the two of us. It has literally to do with everybody else. We just provide the platform for it and spread the news, but everyone else that's involved is what makes this thing grow. And to see that growth year in and year out, it's crazy because I mean, the first year I don't even know if we broke $1,000 raised. And
yeah, it was like 1,500 actually.
1,500, okay. But then to do like 10 times that in year 4, which is crazy. And I'm expecting to it to just like keep on going because I mean, we keep spreading the news and like we get help from like my mom at the schools, like helping. And like I said, anybody who has a family that they feel like they could nominate as well to be eligible for this. Like if you have someone that is in mind that we could help out, let us know. Like give us a little like brief like what's their situation and everything. Like we just want to know, like, so we can approach these guys and like let them know like we want to help them, because it's something that we love to do. Like you said, we would love to do as many families as we could. We were able to do 13 last year, which is insane. Normally we do like 4 to 5, and so it was a huge jump last year, and we just want to keep growing on top of that. And I think that we have the capability to do it, and it's an awesome thing. It's in our Twitter. Is it our pin tweet right now that you can check it out? It is
and it
our
will
pin
be
tweet.
You know,
It will be from
information.
here until December. And I know, like, people are probably wondering, why do you start in July? Like, we just want to get as many eyeballs as this thing the whole time it's running as we can, just to try to like raise as much so we can, because people don't realize, like, the more we raise, the more families and the more kids get help. That's the whole point of it. And so we just want to get as many eyeballs as we can, but it's our pin tweet. But if you're not on Twitter as well, like, you can go to GoFundMe.com directly, and if you search "Rocking Around the 412," it'll pop up. So you can find us at multiple places there. But yeah, go check it out. There's a brief bio that's on the GoFundMe page. You can read about it. And you can see on our Twitter in there, like, there's pictures from past. Like, we try to get pictures that like show what you guys do for these kids. And literally all we do really is we give you some prizes in December for people that donate.
Yeah. And I don't know if I told you this. There was a girl last year, one of the families that we provided Christmas to. She was fighting hard because they thought that they were going to have to take her colon. You know, she's only not 9 years old, and and Pittsburgh had actually completely stopped. They said there's nothing else they can do, and they were ready to take it. She started going to Cincinnati to get treated out there, and they saved it. And she's doing much better now. And she goes to school.
That's great.
And she's a normal 9-year-old girl. Her name's Lily. So, you know, just to give you guys a little bit of an update, she's someone that I put in like all the pictures. You can see like the tube coming out of her nose that she had at the time and everything like that, opening her gifts. Yeah. But yeah, you know, she was somebody that obviously impacted me greatly doing the mission last year. The one thing that, and you mentioned about the families and the nominations, I'm glad you did, because this comes in, and even if you yourself are a family, I know that like pride comes into this. It's a huge part of this as well. But at some point in our life, everybody's going to need help from somebody. And if that's going to be you yourself with your family this Christmas, do not feel ashamed in reaching out to us to have us help your own family. It doesn't have to be someone else that you're nominating. If you have another family in mind, great. But we are willing to help families that reach out to us directly. We actually had 3 of them come that way last year after Josh Carney wrote that article about us for the Beaver County Times. And the other part of that is that, you know, if you are nominating a family, they have to be willing to accept that too. You know, so again, like, if they're too prideful to do so, I get it, but we can't just show up at their doorstep with stuff that we don't first off know if they want. That's another part of this, is we have them make lists.
We literally get them what they want. Like that's also something specific. We don't show up with random stuff. We ask each family and buy them specifically things that they would want.
Exactly. So there's a lot of specifics that go into this that we need the nominations for sure, but then we're going to directly need to be able to contact the family afterwards. So keep all this stuff in mind when reaching out to us, when approaching us with a family that we can help this Christmas. We hope that number is higher than 13 this year, and we hope it's more than 30 kids impacted by this thing. Last year, man, I was scrambling. We had to adopt a family from the Adoption Connection of Beaver County, just because like I was sitting on like $2,000, and I was like, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah, well, we'll see how many Nintendo Switches we buy this year, because I feel
every family wants a Switch now. That's
I feel like over the past like 4 years, we're definitely at least around like 14, 15 Nintendo Switches bought, something like that. At one point, there was one just a little quick story. Like, we were in Walmart buying stuff for families, and we had bought like 3 Nintendo Switches. We had them in our cart. And then we realized like we had money left over for another family. And we're like, well, let's just go get them a Switch. And we just went back and bought a 4th one.
Yeah. I thought you were going to tell the story about that guy just randomly learning about what we were doing and handing us $100.
Oh, yeah. No, that was awesome, too. That was also on that Walmart trip. Mm-hmm. And then also on the Walmart trip, I had to call my mom because I have no idea what makeup it is. Like anything to do with it. We were lost.
And also on that Walmart trip, my card declined because I had already done like 12 separate transactions that day or something. So I had to take cash out and pay for it with cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old times before everything was done through Amazon when we actually went in person to shop and stuff.
Right.
But no, your mom obviously plays a huge role in this as well. So shout out to Bonnie. My mom is the only reason that anything was wrapped, I think, last
Shout
year.
out to
So
Beth.
that was good. Shout out to Beth. But yeah, guys, this is our pinned tweet on Twitter at around the 412. Again, it keeps coming back to our Twitter. Follow us, look at the pinned tweet, go to the GoFundMe, all that good stuff. If you're not on Twitter, you can search Rock Around the 412. It might ask for like a location. If you switch that to like Beaver County or Monaca, then it will obviously pop right up for you. But like I said,
I'm in Utah and it popped up on
Okay,
GoFundMe.com.
cool.
So
This is our baby. This is the most important thing that we do, and we're excited for year 5, bigger and better than ever, guys. I think that's about it for this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about whoever the Penguins drafted, and we're also going to be getting even more into free agency. Hopefully, Chris Letang and or Evgeny Malkin are signed at that point because we need something to talk about.
Hopefully, both of them. And just one last reminder. Go follow our channels. And if you want to be really nice to us, you could give us a 5-star review. We would really appreciate that as well. But at the bare minimum, please just go follow our channels. Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are on there, I promise.
You heard the man. So on that note, there's our drums for Smitty. For Tyler, this is Around the 412 on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. We'll talk to you guys next week. Until then, bye-bye.